Dear netizens, this news, how should I analyze it? In the past 30 years, a turning point in world history, one of the most important aspects. In our past, I have always said I have experienced 60 years of peaceful days. Then, wow, a major shift in the world appeared, really incredibly significant, including COVID. This is since the Spanish flu, the largest pandemic, causing the world to go into lockdown, the Russia-Ukraine war. Such a large-scale ground war we really haven't seen before, and then this matter. The decoupling of China and the United States. Almost a complete decoupling. I want to talk about the harm to both sides. And what else? Since it has come to this point, anything can be done now. There are no more scruples. What cards do both sides still hold? Besant said China is only holding a pair of twos. What other cards does China have to play? What cards the United States have to play? It's very dangerous. Everyone should listen. China has until 12 p.m. U.S. time to withdraw its counter tariffs against the U.S. Starting Wednesday, a 104% tariff will be imposed on China. 104% tariff. It's impossible to do business, but some business will still be done. In the short term, I tell you, for 3 months. Basically, no business will be done. Then 3 months, searching for what can replace the reorganization of the supply chain. And finally, some business will still be done. I think with such high tariffs remaining, about 30% of the business will remain. All right. Donald Trump already warned a day earlier. He said, China increased tariffs by 34%. This is extremely high. It was already high before. There are non-monetary tariffs, illegal subsidies, currency manipulation. If they don't retract, charge them 50%. What happened later during the day? He said, there can be talks with China. If China, I'm waiting for China to call, but they didn't call. How should I put it? Why did this news come out, causing the U.S. stock market in the early session to rebound by 3% to 4%? As a result, by noon, 104 tariffs dropped back down to a lower level. The central government held a peripheral meeting, emphasizing build mutual trust with neighbors. The Chinese Communist Party's strategy is to embrace trade with Southeast Asian countries, strengthen trade with Japan and South Korea, hoping to reduce the impact. Yesterday in the video I mentioned, this is a game of chicken game, also a hawk game. Finally, 2 hawks meet. Finally, both sides suffer. Both sides suffer. Let me explain to everyone who gets hurt more. In the short term, everyone is the same, about the same. In the long term, China gets hurt a bit. The whole story. Before Donald Trump returned to the White House, the average tariff was already 13. I've also seen it at 19. Actually, it's 19. Some say it's weighted, because some parts are exempted, some parts are lower. You need to adjust the weights based on trade volume to determine what the actual tariff is. Some say 13, some say 19. Calculations differ. All right, February 4th, this is the tariff on fentanyl. First, add 10%. China ignores it. Add another 10%. It's just a threat. By this point, it doesn't make sense anymore. If they dare to buy Venezuelan oil, add another 25%. I think they will continue to buy. So this 25% might be added on. Then add 34%. Then add 50%. So what number do we get? This 84, 104. 104 plus 13. 117%. Tariff. All trade temporarily halted. I've never seen this situation before. This is what those economists say. In human history, the largest tariff increase ever. It surpasses the year 1930. Surpasses 1890. The McKinley Tariff. It's the first time in human history that tax has risen. Why is that? Let me explain you. The US usually only charges a tax of 2 4/3%. From 2 4/3%. If you add it up globally, in this regard, it averages around 25%. At least 25%. Maybe even more. Possibly 30%. From a few percent to 30%. So the situation is very alarming. Reach the peak of panic. This is the majority of extreme fear. As a result, today the Hang Seng Index did not fall, but continued to decline, still dropping a bit. Initially opened at 19,200, then went up again. Hong Kong stocks fluctuated today. Hang Seng rose 200 points. U.S. market turnover was $379 billion. Northbound funds inflow was $31.9 billion. Breaking records. All funds were mobilized to buy back stocks. Let's see how long it can be dragged out. Actually, this is completely foolish. The price being dragged here, as an extreme stock expert, I am completely against dragging the stock market at this point. The Shanghai Composite is being dragged. It rose a bit. Taiwan is in trouble. Taiwan fell to up 1,000 points. Yesterday it had already dropped less. Today it dropped another 1,000 points. TSMC fell to over $700. My wife really wanted to buy. I held her back and told her not to buy. Do not buy. Don't buy. Over $700. Bought it over $1,100. Bought it over $700. Don't buy. 1,739, lower than Hong Kong stocks again. Why did Taiwanese stocks fall sharply? It's because Taiwan has many products going to China. Processed for the U.S. stock market. Processed for the U.S. stock market. This part is completely dead. So today it fell a bit more. Do you understand? Taiwan's products going to the U.S. are subject to a 32% tax. I think in the short term, within a month, it will be at a standstill, but it will gradually recover. Recover to 90%. 90%. It will recover. Because of the 32% tariff, if talks fail, it will recover to 90%. But those going to China are completely dead. Those intermediate goods. Adding it all up. Taiwan exports drop 20%. Taiwan's housing prices will fall. But let me tell you, if Taiwan stocks drop a bit more, Taiwan stocks are very worth buying. The reason? I have an urgent message. Today at $50, I'm telling you, we are awaiting to buy Taiwan stocks. Taiwan stocks are especially worth buying, apart from India. The U.S. stock market. Yesterday's closing results. Nasdaq fell by 2.1. Stanley Pool fell 157. Take a look. Amazon fell by 2.2%. Tesla was the most severe, 4%. Let me tell you why Tesla is so severe. First, it's lithium batteries. The ternary lithium batteries are made in Japan, Korea, US, including its 4,680. People always don't understand. It will transport drill iron lithium batteries, cheaper batteries. are mostly made by CATL. Now this matter has become. It should belong to. Previously it was exempted. 104% tariff. Also, its volume point, its first quarter deliveries are the kind of energy business. Energy business. Couldn't be done these past few months. Couldn't be done. Even contracts couldn't be fulfilled because 40% of its cost is lithium iron phosphate batteries. Only FAPO4 batteries are expensive. People signed contracts. You have to raise the price. Otherwise, you'll lose money. You can raise the price because this is a force majeure. And which kind? Has dropped significantly. This full-scale action. These two heavyweights. Amazon. The e-commerce of the month. These major events. I'll tell you later. Who has suffered the most? Apple is beyond saving. He said Tim Cook still believes this is temporary. He can fool Trump. I tell you, Apple's computers, Apple's MacBook, iPhone, over 80% made in mainland China. Now, the previous exemption, 104% tariff, Apple phones. Need to sell for 500-600 more. People won't buy them. Or they'll buy them abroad and bring them back. Go to Canada to buy them. All right. China's main export destinations. I tell you how severely China is hurt. This. Over $500 billion from the US, $160 billion from Vietnam, $100 billion from Malaysia, over $30 billion from Thailand, Indonesia. These places, many have been there, are all going to the US also. Over $100 billion to Mexico. In total, China has $1 trillion in exports that are being hit. This $1 trillion nearly came to a halt for 3 months. Let me explain to you. Those big car companies have already announced a suspension of exports to the US, including Volkswagen. Why? Cars are 30% more expensive. Would you buy them? They don't dare to ship cars over. Ship them over and leave them there. Leave them in the warehouse. Pay taxes and can't sell them. They stop. No tariffs. Will it continue? Will it continue? I have this too. So when business is uncertain, they don't go. Secondly, they mark up the price by 50%, by 40%, to see if anyone buys. Only if someone orders do they go. Carefully check the requirements before daring to give that title. China's $1 trillion business, only 10 to 20% remains. Finally, this $1 trillion business, about 30% remains. Around 30%, about $700 billion is gone. $700 billion US dollars is gone. All right, China. That export reached its peak here, accounting 35% GDP. After reaching this point, it plummeted. Why? Because it used infrastructure to grow. Internal consumption. So up to now, it's 20%. You have to calculate like this. In total, how much did it export? 3.5 trillion, I estimate. 20% is gone. That's 700 billion. 20%. 20% is 4%. That means China's GDP will not lose 4%. This hasn't accounted for its sunrise effect. Hasn't accounted for its effect. Oh, the sunrise effect is severe. That is to say, China has 90 million people engaged in 90 million. 90 million people are in the export business. 20% is gone. There are 90 million people. 20 million people become unemployed. As a result, consumption weakens further. Consumption weakens further. Housing prices continue to fall. All consumption weakens. Consumption weakens. It becomes a vicious cycle, continuing to pass downwards. China's economy. In the second quarter, directly entered a deep recession. In the second quarter. But Xi Jinping thinks it's not a problem. Why is that? He controls the entire society. China can endure this pain because he doesn't need to care about the people. China immediately sharply declines. The decoupling of China and the US is a significant event. China and the US have reached this point. It's essentially a complete fallout. All right. The United States. Let's see things in the United States. The phone situation is a big deal. Phones. Some come from China. Some come from India. 20% come from Vietnam. 49%. Samsung is also in serious trouble. Most of Samsung production is in Vietnam. Most of Samsung's production is in South Korea. 20% come from South Korea, but it's not enough for the US market. Automated data. Small commodities are dead. Fast batteries still need to be imported. You can't avoid importing them. There's nowhere else to buy so many. Toys, motor vehicles, car parts, lights. Let me tell you, how much of the US market do they occupy? Oh. The top 10 Chinese products US market. Video game consoles occupy 87%. Smartphones 76%. There's another one. 24%. That's Samsung. Toys 77%. Laptops 78%. Lithium batteries 70%. That's all lithium phosphate batteries. Tesla. Joe Xin and his team. Let's look at the subcategories. The most impressive ones. These are the subcategories. In the electric heating sector, 99% cannot be replaced. No one can replace them. No one can replace them. It's impossible in the short term. If they impose a 100% tariff, you still have to buy from them. In the end, you still have to buy from them. After a few months, some can come from Southeast Asia, produced there. These aren't very complicated. These can be done. For example, Taiwan can also do it, but it's a bit more expensive. Bread makers 97%. Thermos bottles 97%. But they have to buy them. Artificial flowers, plastic flowers 97%. Fireworks. July 4th, Independence Day. Disney without fireworks. Baby strollers. Baby strollers. When China stops supply. When China stops supply. When China stops indirect supply. 800 billion to United States. 800 billion to United States. Do you now? What impact affects the US GDP? 800 billion US dollars. 800 billion US dollars is the import figure. 800 billion US dollars. Can you guess what it is at the retail level? Can you guess what it is at the retail level? Generally speaking, it's more than 6 times. That is 5 trillion. The overall US economy, 23 trillion, has 20% consumption, that is gone. This causes a huge shortage. Inflation would be out of control. 91% of notebook computers. Christmas decorations. No Christmas decorations. 85% video game consoles. 85% video game consoles. Let's look at China-US trade. This one here. From here. When Trump came to power, tariffs were added here. due to the pandemic. Tariffs were added during this time. It dropped down. Then surged up due to the pandemic. Now it's dropping again. Actually shifted to Southeast Asia. China's 3.5 trillion, at least 800 to 900 billion, at least 800 to 900 billion, went to the United States. That's 25%. And it's the most profitable part. All right. Now China and the US are at odds. What can China do? This complete severance of relations causes unemployment in China, China's recession. But China endures it. China's trade surplus, about 70% comes from the US. Without the trade surplus, all right. As a result, the first thing China did, previously didn't dare to let the RMB depreciate. Afraid US would accuse of manipulation. Now they let the RMB depreciate. In the past few days, they started letting the RMB depreciate. They kept holding the line, not daring to let it go past 73. Offshore reached 7.38. How high will they let it go? They have a problem now. If the RMB depreciates too quickly, all foreign capital in China will try to escape, including hot money. Selling bonds and stocks. China will experience a cash outflow. Promotes deflation. That's the first point. Secondly, for Xi Jinping, if you calculate RMB exchange, China's GDP will decline. Japan was the world's third largest economy. Due to the depreciation of the yen, Japan's economy kept shrinking. China's economy is continuously shrinking. Take a look. In the short term, from 2010 to now, during this time, it went to 7.2. I remember. During this time it was 6 yuan, 2014 renminbi 6 yen, 1 yuan to 6 yuan, reaching here. It went to over 7.2. So he kept holding on. Now it has broken through 7.3. How far will it go? I know China's way of doing things. They don't want to devalue all at once. It's very likely to devalue gradually. Devalue to 7.5, I think. Some people think drop to 7.8, in parallel with the Hong Kong dollar. Even more pessimistic people think 8.5. Of course, I think it's best not to solve all problems at once. Devalue to 12 yuan. China's average problems would be solved. This is from an economic perspective, but the debt problem would be resolved. However, China, now with devaluation, actually, Chinese products devalue by a few percent, can't go to the United States. What is the result? Because Chinese products are cheap, they continue to flow to other countries. Other countries will raise barriers, focusing on Chinese products, and engage in trade disputes with countries. The exchange rate of the renminbi was higher than the US dollar. Then during Zhu Rongji's time, it went from changed 4.78, devalued all at once. Think how significant Zhu Rongji was. Devalued 4.78. Then slowly worked its way up. The peak in 2014 was 6. Against 6. At this time, it was against 6. Then it rose by 1.5. Then it turned around. Now it's 7.38. Guess how high it will go. But last time, Donald Trump actually imposed tariffs of over 10%. He countered with a 10% devaluation, but this time imposed a 104% tariff. You devalue by 10.8%. It has no effect on the United States. If you devalue a bit more, it affects other countries. It impacts other countries. The most severe is Hong Kong. When the renminbi further devalues, more Hong Kong people head north. Mainland tourists stop to Hong Kong. Moreover, this is a very serious issue. I will tell you, it is very possible now for the Hong Kong dollar to decouple. Let's see China's second move. Donald Trump's tariff withdrawal. That has to keep falling. Why does it suddenly rise again at that moment? Think about it. Mainland is dumping treasury bonds. China is dumping treasury bonds. The mainland is dumping them significantly. Because they must. Now they must get rid of all the bonds, 750 billion bonds, because they don't dare to hold onto the bonds. Because if conflict between the two sides continues to escalate, the US might freeze their treasury bonds. So they are dumping the bonds at any cost. All right. Now, the mainland has a move, devaluation of the renminbi. One move is dumping the bonds. Another move, to deal with American companies in China. Doing business. Who makes the most money in China? Apple. Not just earning $10 billion, earning $11.2 billion. Nvidia is earning $7 to $8 billion. This is not allowed. Apple is also earning over $10 billion. And the biggest problem for Apple is 80% of its industry is in China. The supply chain can't be pulled out. Tesla earned $3 to $4 billion selling cars in China, but not. China accounts for over 40% of its sales, accounting for 45% of production output. McDonald's. The third profitable one is Coca-Cola. Pepsi Gold. Factories in these countries. Nike has 70% in China, accounting for a percentage of its sales in the teens, but 20% of its industry is in China. 80% is in Vietnam, so it focuses on commerce. Starbucks. Microsoft doesn't earn a lot. Johnson & Johnson and drug firms are in trouble. All right. Hong Kong is subject to same tariffs. Hong Kong is in trouble this time. Today on the radio show, US is like big rock crushing crab. Yes. The mainland deceived Hong Kong. Big rock crushing a crab. Very angry and furious. No need. His business in the mainland is doing poorly, but he supports the country to stand firm. If you kneel, there will be no regular income. Because America. If you listen to the United States, you have to give up your national system. He is unwilling to give up the national system. Xi Jinping believes no one can force China now to swallow some bitterness it does not want to accept. I remember what he said at that time. Trade war. China can definitely safeguard its fundamental interests. Therefore, he would rather oppose the United States, telling Hong Kong businessmen strong, support the country, and jump off a building if necessary.